Black history is filled with stories of survival, resistance, and untold realities that often go overlooked. Through film, we have one of the most powerful ways to revisit these stories, not just for entertainment, but as a way to understand what countless Black lives have endured. In this video, we're counting down 10 must-watch films that capture what it really means to struggle, to be silenced, and to rise anyway. These stories are raw, real, and unforgettable. Give this video a like to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our future content. Now, let's get into it.
Alright, so tell me your names again.
I'm Venus. I'm Serena.
Number 10, King Richard, 2021. King Richard tells the story of a father with a vision. The film follows Richard Williams, father of Venus and Serena, and his unshakable belief that his daughters would become tennis champions long before the world had any room for two Black girls from Compton to take over the sport. What makes this story so powerful is that it shows Black struggle without ever needing to exaggerate it. Richard is up against a system that's not built for families like his. Tennis has long been dominated by wealthy white athletes. Private courts, country clubs, expensive coaching, none of that was part of their life. But Richard had a plan, and it wasn't built on hope or luck. It was built on hard work, long hours, and a refusal to be boxed in by race or class. The movie begins in their early years, when they had no trophies yet and plenty of doubt from the outside world. You see a father protect his children from the streets, from exploitation, and from giving up. It's a story about survival, not just in terms of violence or poverty, but in surviving a system that tries to decide who's allowed to succeed. Fun facts: Will Smith won his first Oscar for this role, and the real-life Venus and Serena were executive producers on the film, making sure their story was told right. The real Richard Williams actually wrote a 78-page plan for his daughter's success before they were even born, and many of the scenes in the movie are pulled directly from real interviews and home videos. King Richard reminds us that survival isn't always about staying alive. It's also about fighting to be seen, to be respected, and to succeed on your own terms.
Out of the car.
Number 9, The Hate You Give, 2018. The Hate You Give hits hard because it doesn't try to soften what so many Black communities experience. It leans into it. The story follows Star Carter, a teenager who moves between two completely different worlds: the mostly Black neighborhood where she lives and the mostly white prep school she attends. She's used to switching between those identities, code switching just to get through the day, until something traumatic rips through both sides of her life. When Star witnesses the police shooting of her childhood friend Khalil, everything around her starts to crumble. Her grief begins quietly, but grows as people around her respond in different ways. She finds herself in the middle of conversations she didn't expect and didn't ask for. There's pressure from people close to her, from her school, and from those in power. The fear of speaking out becomes just as present as the pain of losing someone. The film takes time with that fear. It stays with the moments when Star is unsure of what to say or how much to share. It doesn't rush her decisions or try to turn them into something simple. It shows what it feels like to carry a truth that others don't want acknowledged. That truth doesn't bring relief right away. It brings more questions, more tension, and more responsibility than she ever prepared for. The movie's title actually comes from a concept created by Tupac Shakur: the hate you give little infants everybody, which he believed explained the cycle of systemic racism. The film is based on the best-selling novel by Angie Thomas, which was inspired by the real-life shooting of Oscar Grant. Amandla Stenberg, who plays Star, worked closely with the author to bring the emotional weight of the character to life. The Hate You Give shows what it feels like to be caught in the middle of two worlds while trying to survive in both. It's personal, it's political, and it doesn't let go of you once it starts. Number 8, Fruitvale Station, 2013. Fruitvale Station is the type of movie that opens quietly, following Oscar Grant through what seems like a regular day. It drops you into the final day of Oscar Grant's life and asks you to sit with it. There's no big setup, no dramatic, unrealistic twist. It's real, and that's what makes it hit so hard. The movie is based on the true story of a 22-year-old black man who was fatally shot by a Bay Area rapid transit officer on New Year's Day in 2009. Oscar wasn't doing anything extraordinary that night. He was just a man trying to get home. The film, directed by Ryan Coogler in his feature debut, walks us through Oscar's life in the hours leading up to that moment. He's not portrayed as a symbol or a headline. He's just a young man trying to make things right. He's a father, a son, a partner, one who is just trying to be better. That's what makes it so devastating. You're not watching a news clip. You're watching someone who could be your neighbor, your friend, your family. There's a kind of quiet in this film that makes every detail feel heavier. It doesn't rush. It gives you time to feel the weight of each choice, each interaction. And when the ending comes, when that moment at the train station happens, it's not just sad. It's infuriating. Because it didn't need to happen. And yet it did. The film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and won both the Grand Jury Prize and the Audience Award. Michael B. Jordan's performance as Oscar Grant drew widespread praise for its depth and humanity. Ryan Coogler, who went on to direct Creed and Black Panther, has said this was the story that made him want to become a filmmaker. Fruitvale Station focuses on more than the loss itself. It looks at how a life is seen, how memory takes shape, and how certain stories fade from public attention. It sits with the pain that stays long after the headlines are gone.
I know what it's like to be in the shadows.
Number 7. Just Mercy, 2019. Just Mercy is another movie based on something very real and very wrong. The story of Walter McMillian, a black man in Alabama who was wrongly convicted of murder and sentenced to death. His case wasn't just about a mistake. It's about a system that decides who is guilty before a trial even begins. It's not a courtroom drama that wraps up neatly. It's a film about the uphill fight for justice when the odds are stacked before the fight even starts. The movie follows Brian Stevenson, a young lawyer fresh out of Harvard who moves to Alabama to defend death row inmates. He's real. He's the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, and he's still doing the work. In the film, Stevenson takes on McMillian's case and quickly discovers how deep corruption goes: false testimonies, ignored evidence, racial bias. And through it all, Stevenson refuses to back down. What makes Just Mercy so powerful is the endurance. It shows what it means to keep fighting even when the system seems too big to change. It shows the strength it takes to believe in someone when no one else will. And it reminds us that surviving isn't always physical. Sometimes it's about protecting your dignity in a place that keeps trying to take it. The film is based on Stevenson's memoir of the same name. Michael B. Jordan, who plays Stevenson, also produced the film and worked closely with the real-life Stevenson to make sure the story stayed accurate. Jamie Foxx, who plays McMillian, received a Screen Actors Guild nomination for his performance. After the film's release, the Equal Justice Initiative saw a massive surge in donations and public support. Just Mercy tells the story of a legal system that fails people who have already been pushed to the margins. It follows what happens when someone decides to step in and do the work that others avoid. The film stays with the effort to seek justice in a place where it has often been denied. It reflects how survival can mean continuing to fight, even when the outcome is uncertain. Number 6. Moonlight, 2016. Moonlight doesn't yell, it doesn't push, it just shows. And what it shows is the quiet, complicated journey of a young black boy growing up in Miami, trying to figure out who he is in a world that keeps trying to tell him who he should be. The story is told in 3 parts: childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, through the eyes of Chiron, a kid who learns early that survival isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just about making it through the day without breaking. Chiron's world is heavy from the start. He's bullied at school, neglected at home, and forced to navigate questions about identity and masculinity without any real support. His mother struggles with addiction. His only sense of safety comes from a local drug dealer named Juan, who sees Chiron not as a project but as a person. That relationship, like much of the film, is complicated. Nothing is perfect, but it's real. As Kyron grows, he continues to face isolation, both from others and from himself. The movie doesn't offer easy answers or dramatic speeches. Instead, it lingers in moments of silence, confusion, and reflection. And in that space, it says a lot about what it means to grow up, Black, poor, and queer in America. Fun facts. Moonlight became the first film with an all-black cast to win the Oscar for Best Picture. It was also the first film centered on an LGBTQ character to receive that recognition. The announcement of its win followed an unexpected moment during the ceremony, when La La Land was mistakenly named as the winner before the correction was made on stage. The film is based on a play written by Terrell Alvin McCraney called In Moonlight Black Boys Look Blue. Director Barry Jenkins had a personal link to the story, having grown up in the Miami neighborhood where the film takes place. Moonlight explores what it means to survive emotionally. It follows a character learning how to live with himself while dealing with expectations, silence, and fear. The film stays close to moments that shape identity and connection. It shows how finding care for yourself can become an important part of making it through.
Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois Black Panther Party.
Number 5. Judas and the Black Messiah, 2021. Judas and the Black Messiah tells the story of a man who inspired change and the betrayal that helped end his life. The film focuses on Fred Hampton, the chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, and William O'Neill, the FBI informant who was sent to infiltrate his inner circle. It's a story that doesn't need dramatic rewriting, because what really happened was already intense, complicated, and heartbreaking. Fred Hampton was a 21-year-old organizing free breakfast programs, health clinics, and political education for Chicago's Black community. He brought people together, Black, white, Latino, poor, working class, all under one idea: power to the people. That scared those in power, so the FBI labeled him a threat. And they used O'Neill, who had been caught stealing cars, as leverage to bring him down. The film doesn't paint anything in black and white. It shows how pressure, fear, and survival can push people to do things they never imagined. It also doesn't shy away from what really happened. In 1969, Fred Hampton was killed in a raid while he was sleeping next to his pregnant fiancée. The moment is shown in a way that's hard to sit through, as it shows just how far the government was willing to go to stop a movement. Daniel Kaluuya won an Oscar for his portrayal of Hampton, and he gave a powerful speech that honored the legacy of the man he played. Lakeith Stanfield, who played O'Neill, was also nominated. The title of the film was inspired by how O'Neill described himself in an old interview, comparing his role in Hampton's death to Judas's betrayal of Jesus. Judas and the Black Messiah is a reminder that being a leader in the fight for justice has never been safe. It also shows that survival sometimes means resisting the systems designed to erase you, even when the cost is your life.
Inciting large-scale arrests and sympathy marches.
Number 4. Selma, 2014. Selma focuses on one of the most important chapters in the fight for civil rights: the 1965 marches from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. These marches were an organized response to voter suppression that affected Black communities across the South. The film follows how people came together to demand something basic: the right to vote. That demand came with risk. In Selma, even peaceful protest could lead to violence, arrest, or worse. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., portrayed by David Oyelowo, is shown in the movie not just as a leader but as a person carrying a heavy burden. The film stays close to his doubts, his family life, and the quiet moments that came between the rallies and negotiations. There are disagreements within the movement, resistance from officials, and threats that follow them from city to city. The path forward is filled with pressure, and each step takes more coordination and strength than it may seem from the outside. The march itself was sparked by the murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson, a young Black man shot by a state trooper during a peaceful protest. What followed were multiple attempts to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, most infamously what became known as Bloody Sunday, when peaceful marchers were brutally attacked by police. It wasn't until weeks later, under federal protection, that the final march to Montgomery was completed. Selma was directed by Ava DuVernay, who became the first Black woman to direct a film nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. The original song Glory by Common and John Legend won an Academy Award and became closely associated with the film's message. While some elements of the story drew discussion, the film remains rooted in the emotional and political urgency of the time. This film stays with the people who chose to keep walking, even when the road was long and uncertain. It shows how each step forward was a decision made in real time, not a moment taken for granted.
Will not touch the white man's drugs, his liquor, his women, so that those in the dark.
Number 3. Malcolm X, 1992. Malcolm X tells the story of a man whose life moved through many stages, each shaped by the world around him and the choices he made. Directed by Spike Lee and starring Denzel Washington, the film follows Malcolm from his early years to his final days, showing the different paths he walked and the beliefs he carried with him. The story begins with Malcolm Little. After losing his father to racist violence and his mother to the state, Malcolm grows up with few options and eventually becomes involved in street life. He ends up in prison, and it's during that time that his thinking starts to change. He begins to read, reflect, and study the teachings of the Nation of Islam. He takes the name Malcolm X and finds direction in his new identity. The film follows his rise as a public figure. He gives speeches, challenges the status quo, and speaks to crowds across the country. His words don't hold back. The film shows how people responded to that honesty, some with support, others with fear. Malcolm's relationship with the Nation of Islam eventually changes, and he begins to explore new ideas while traveling abroad. By the end of his life, his message included a broader view of human rights and global solidarity. He was assassinated in 1965 at the age of 39. Denzel Washington received an Academy Award nomination for his role. Malcolm's daughter, Atala Shabazz, appears briefly in the film. Nelson Mandela also makes an appearance at the end, sharing Malcolm's words with students. The film was later added to the National Film Registry for its historical and cultural importance. Malcolm X shows how survival can involve learning, changing, and holding on to purpose. It reflects a journey of identity that continues to speak to people across generations. Number 2. When They See Us, 2019. When They See Us is a heart-wrenching portrayal of the injustice faced by the Central Park Five Black and Latino teenagers who were wrongfully convicted of sexually attacking a white woman in 1989. Directed by Ava DuVernay, the 4-part series digs into the broken system that led to their convictions, the police coercion, and the media's rush to judgment. The story is told from the perspective of the 5 young men, Kevin, Raymond, Antron, Youssef, and Corey, and it doesn't shy away from the brutality they endured. They were interrogated without their parents present, forced to confess to a crime they didn't commit, and then discarded by the system when their confessions were proven false. But When They See Us doesn't just show the trauma, it shows the survival, how these young men held on to who they were in the face of unimaginable odds. The series also captures how the public was quick to convict them before they even had a chance to speak, driven by racial profiling and prejudice. The media demonized them, labeling them, and the narrative around the crime was crafted in such a way that the truth didn't stand a chance. But in the end, the truth prevailed. In 2002, the real perpetrator confessed, and their convictions were overturned. However, the damage to their lives was irreparable. When They See Us was nominated for 16 Emmy Awards and won 2, including Outstanding Lead Actor for Gerald Jerome, who portrayed Corey Wise. The series was inspired by the 2002 exoneration of the Central Park Five, who went on to sue New York City for wrongful convictions. Ava DuVernay said the project was deeply personal, as it brought attention to the flaws in the criminal justice system that disproportionately affect Black and brown youth. When They See Us is about how the system can judge you before you even speak, how Black youth are criminalized before they're given the opportunity to exist without suspicion, and how surviving means never being allowed to forget what was taken from you.
Well, boy, how you feel now?
My name is Solomon Law.
Number 1. 12 Years a Slave, 2013. 12 Years a Slave is more than just a recounting of history. It's a brutal, gut-wrenching portrayal of the true cost of slavery in America. Based on the memoir of Solomon Northup, a free black man who was kidnapped and sold into slavery, the film doesn't hold back from showing the full extent of what survival under such a system demanded. Directed by Steve McQueen and starring Chiwetel Ejiofor as Northup, the film powerfully portrays the dehumanizing treatment of black people that lasted for centuries. The movie begins with Solomon Northup living a peaceful, free life as a respected musician in Saratoga, New York. But in 1841, after being offered a job as a traveling musician, he was drugged, kidnapped, and sold into slavery in the South. Over the next 12 years, Solomon endures unimaginable physical and emotional torment as he's passed from one brutal master to the next. The film doesn't shy away from the violence, whippings, forced labor, and the constant threat of death, but it also shows his inner strength, his refusal to be broken, and his determination to reclaim his freedom. What makes 12 Years a Slave so powerful is that it doesn't focus solely on physical abuse. It shows how slavery strips away humanity, how it tries to erase dignity, and how survival becomes a question of holding on to hope in the most dire circumstances. Solomon's strength is shown in how he endures not only the physical demands of slavery, but also the pressure placed on his mind and spirit over time. The film won 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, making it the first film directed by a black filmmaker, Steve McQueen, to win the top honor. Chiwetel Ejiofor's portrayal of Solomon earned him an Oscar nomination. The film was praised for its unflinching portrayal of slavery, with many historians calling it one of the most accurate depictions of the system. The film's production involved a great deal of historical research, with the team working closely with historians to ensure that the experience of slavery was portrayed as authentically as possible. 12 Years a Slave is a film that demands to be seen, not just for its historical importance, but for its portrayal of resilience in the face of unimaginable dehumanization. It's a reminder that survival is not just about staying alive, but about holding on to your humanity when everything is trying to strip it away. Have you watched any of these films, and are there others you'd recommend people watch on Black struggle and survival? Share your thoughts in the comments and keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed this list, please go ahead and like this video. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay connected with us for our next uploads. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.